what's up everyone? It's your girl Brain Sinead, and today is my stop for the Rockstar book tour, and my book review for this tour is going to be for Human Remains. This is by Milligan Cantrino and Kelly Underwood. And this graphic novel, this had me think about so many different perspectives. It made me think of what we're going through now today, after the pandemic, and it makes me think of how it was before the pandemic and during the pandemic. Now, don't get me wrong, we're still in a pandemic, but this was just like in a whole nother level. And just look at the cover. I'm not even going to get into the graphic novel yet, but just look at the cover. This is so enticing. It makes me want to know more about what is happening right here. So right in the beginning of this graphic novel, which I was like, wait, what is this right here? It says, government message: all expressions of fear, anger, love, lust, and humor are forbidden in public places. Remember, emotions cost lives. And I'm like, what is going on? And so we are at the very beginning of this graphic novel where they're trying to figure out what this monster is. Where did it come from? Why is it constantly attacking people? And so this is, and what made me think of this is like the pandemic, like the very beginning of it. Like, we heard about it, but we didn't really have a lot of action towards it. We just heard about it. Like things happening in different countries until it came here in the US. And so this is what pretty much happens in this graphic novel, where life is good. Everyone's living their best life. People are getting married, having children, etc. And then this thing comes into play. And so I'm just going to read a little bit of this because it's really interesting. Let me see. I don't want to start at the very beginning, but to when they make their research. So it says, there will be Mumbai-born professor Anjali Sharma. Anjali Sharma is one of the people that we'll be following throughout this graphic novel. We also have Henry, who is part of the military. We also have Bisa and Dax. And we also follow Jennifer and the Reverend in this graphic novel. And so at the very beginning, it says head of Oxford Biotech. So that's who she is. And it says, we've established that the life forms are attracted to strong emotions or the display of those emotions. They also generally attack in the open. The walls in here are padded and there are no windows, so we're as safe as we can be. So just right off the bat of that, these monsters, these life forms are attacking people because of their emotions. And which it says at the very beginning, beware of your emotions. Love, lust, and humor are forbidden, and fear and anger. So when you express your anger, when you're attacking someone, immediately that life form comes in and kills you. Think of it as sort of, well, this is based off emotions, but think of the movie The Quiet Place, where they had to be quiet in order to not be attacked by these aliens, these life forms. And if you make one slight noise, like it comes for you, and you can run, but then you're gone, you're dead, you're done for. And so that's probably a good example. Like, think of it as like The Quiet Place, but here it's based off your emotions and when you express your emotions loudly, like anger, when you're crying, when you're sad, when you're loving someone, stuff like that, all the types of emotions. So you have to like bring yourself together. You can, you're happy or whatever, but you can't express your emotions. So it says, however, I ask everyone to keep their composure. Anyone shouting or losing their temper will be asked to leave. I think she's talking to you, General. It says, I promise I won't let off any bombs. Good. Now, I like to discuss our latest theories as to just what we're up against. An alien life form, a homegrown germ or virus, a germ the size of a bus. That's how big these life forms are in this graphic novel. And then it says, we have to keep an open mind, General Sullivan. The life forms first appeared in Mediterranean countries. Some people have made a connection between that and the fact that the Mediterranean is probably the most polluted sea in the world. And then it says, please don't turn this into some kind of eco-friendly, blame everything on humanity exercise. Bottom line, we've got a dangerous new enemy, one we're unable to communicate or reason with. I've been in touch with NATO military command. They agree with me. This is a job for the military. Plans are already underway to begin Operation Fight Back. With respect, General, until we have a better understanding of what we're up against, an organized military strike could make things worse. With respect, Professor, I don't see how they could be a hell of a lot worse. And so, yes, so that's where we are at the very beginning. We're introduced to the guy, the commander or whatever, the general, and then we have Dr. Anjali. And then it goes into her family, and it's just, let me just read this passage as well. It says, as a mother, she can't bear to imagine how her son, Sajiva, is a dangerous age. For some reason, the life forms do not register children aged 5 and under. Saj has his 6th birthday 2 weeks ago. So they try to teach him how to keep his emotions in check, even when he sees his busy ma for the first time in 3 days. How to fight everything that's natural for a 6-year-old boy. She thinks she'd go crazy without these moments, his touch, his smell. Things the life forms haven't stolen from her yet. And then it goes into, there will be those who deny their existence, from Berlin to Lahore to Washington. The self-styled freethinkers, as though some parts of humanity are unable or unwilling to comprehend something, to amend something so other. They believe the entire life form phenomenon has been created by Elon Musk, or the Israelis, or the Illuminati, or the European Union. Their numbers will quickly diminish, and there will be the time before the life forms come, and later it will seem like an impossible faraway land of free expression and high emotions. So a lot of people have their theories about this life form, where it's from. They believe that, it's just lies, which when we think of pre-pandemic, like right when it was happening and we heard about it, we didn't think anything of it. We didn't think it was real. Even during the pandemic, people didn't believe it was real. They didn't believe not one thing. It was a fluke. It was a hoax. People had their own theories and conspiracies against with it, And so with this is a good example of that. But this is about a life form coming to Earth or wherever it's created. Even Dr. Sanjali said possibly the Mediterranean Sea, because it's the most polluted ocean, sea. And with this, like I said, we're following different characters in this book, and they all go through different things, but they still connect to each other. They still meet up with each other and not realizing it. So we also have Biza and Dax at a wedding. And of course, people have a lot of emotions during wedding. They can be drunk, happy, mad, whatever. And that's when Biza and Dax's reality comes into play, when she loses her dad by these life forms because he was angry at one point. So anything with high emotions. And then we have Jennifer, who is married to a man that abuses her and beats her. And he's able to put his emotions in check and her emotions in check, but for him it's beating her. So she's trying to find a way to get away from him, and she does do that eventually within this graphic novel. It just does take time. And then when she does, and when her husband finds her and tries to take her away because she's in a motel, he's expressing his anger really highly, where the life form comes in and takes him, but she still can't fathom the fact that he's gone. So she puts his remains in a pill bottle, because human remains, because that's all that's left. But then eventually she does let go of him and his human remains. But throughout this book, we also have the Reverend, who doesn't believe this, who believes that, you need to believe in God. This is the last days. You need to do this. You need to do that. But he feeds off of what's happening right now, because he's thinking oh, okay, if I do this, people will come in the church now because they'll have a certain faith, and I'll preach to them this is nothing. You can do this. You have to believe. You have to have faith, yada, yada, yada. So he's making it seem like it's a whole show type of deal, while other people's lives are at stake. Even Biza and Dax, as they are married, I feel like they're having a little disconnect, because they want to show their affection for one another, like sex and stuff like that. And so, when you have sex, people can be very loud, and Dax was scared. He couldn't do it. So them with that connection in their marriage was lost, because they didn't know how to express that to each other without being killed by these mysterious life forms. So even Sanjali and the general were finding ways to find out how to communicate to this life form, this creature, whatever. And so they do end up capturing one. But then the general, he was acting funny, and he's trying I can't wait for nobody. I'm going to approach this life form and see what happens. And then somehow the life form got into his head. And that scene in this graphic novel reminded me of Independence Day, how the creature was telekinesis, telepathy or whatever to the doctor. If you watch Independence Day, you know the scene that I'm talking about. and it connected to the doctor and its psyche, his mind, and he was talking through the doctor, the creature, or the alien. So that's what happened within this. But since the creature, the life form that talked to the general in the graphic novel, he was acting as if he was one of the life forms, and he attacked a person who was expressing emotion, and attacked him, and then eventually ended up killing him and stuff as well. So it's a lot going on. A lot of people with faith and believing what they need to do in order to put their emotions in check. There's a lot of ways where people were meditating, doing yoga in order to not express their emotions so deeply and so loud and crazy. And there's scenes in this graphic novel where even Dax, which this is Dax and Biza, where they find ways to express their emotion based off of, it's not sign language, but based off of like different methods. Like if I lift up my eyebrow, you know what that means. Or if I do this with my hands, you know how I'm feeling or what emotions that I'm trying to act out. So you have that as well. And then Sanjali, the doctor, she ends up going to Oregon because she finds out that Oregon has not had any fatalities. There's no one has been killed, nothing. And she finds out that there's this sort of psychedelic mushrooms or whatever that they have. And they gave her a dose just to see. And one of the life forms came up to her like face to face, really close, and it did not attack her. So she comes home with this, and of course they lock her up. They're like, no. So the best thing to do is to pretty much have everybody high. Like they thought it was really, really ridiculous until one day they actually seen it. The actual thing where she was at like a festival, she was able to get away from house arrest because they put her on house arrest because they thought what she was thinking was crazy. Like they thought she was a lunatic, a psychopath. Until they finally saw it, what the example she wanted to share with them about these mushrooms in person at a festival. Even though during this festival, this is what the Reverend was doing, his little event. So he fed off of what had happened. She's like, look, see, there is a God. When there's demons, you know that there's a God. So we have that. And so later on in this graphic novel, they end up taking these mushrooms and they're back to having some normalcy, you know, something normal, even though nothing really is normal after this, because there was people that lost a lot of loved ones, and you know, they had funerals, but there was no body in the coffins. There was no one, because when the life forms killed someone, they were gone. There was nothing left of their bodies, and a lot of people was just sad and mad about that in general, of burying nothing in a coffin, you know. So there was a lot of emotions, and it makes me think about how since the pandemic, and as we're still continuing in the pandemic, everyone's emotions are high. Like everyone's mental state is not great, which it says all about this also, like that in this graphic novel, of how with everybody's loss and how they can't express themselves with their emotions, it's mentally has affected everyone. And it's like that today in reality. So I definitely gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. This was really, really good. It gives you different perspectives of people's families, of Sanjali and losing her son. You know, like he's 6 years old. He doesn't really understand. Can you imagine having a kid during, like in this graphic novel, during this time when the life forms come, and you don't know how to explain your child to not be expressive with their emotions, not being mad, not being sad, not crying and stuff like that. Like that has to be really hard. And just like if we lived in this reality within this graphic novel and you had a baby on top of that, like that's really, really scary. So yeah, it gave me different perspectives from everyone, from the married couple to Jennifer, who was being abused by her husband, to the Reverend, to the general, the doctor. It gives you a different perspective from how they were living during this time of these life forms coming and killing people because they were expressing their emotions too loudly. And I really enjoyed it. This was something that I did not expect the story to be like this, but I really enjoyed it, like a lot. I really did enjoy it, and I'm glad that like they were able to find normalcy, because when the doctor found these mushrooms, so like even the graphics of this is just beautiful and just awesome. Like even at the end, it has some of the art that they did. So this is the ending. So here's the artwork of the authors. Like look at it, just beautiful. But just finding ways to get back to normalcy is great, but then they also know like nothing will never be the same again. You know, things are going to be completely different. But yeah, this is the life form, all the different designs of everything. But like I said, the graphics is definitely strong. Like, this is the part during Biza and Dax's wedding, and people were expressing their emotions, and that's how they got killed. So it's very graphic as well, just to let you know. But yeah, I love the graphics of this. It's just really pretty. I loved it. I love the monologue between each character. It was just really well done, which is why I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. But I really hope you pick this book up, or this, graphic novel. It is really, really good. Let me know if you've read it already, what your thoughts are about it, but definitely pick it up. I highly recommend this. It gives you a perspective of like, yes, we're living in a pandemic now, but can you imagine if there were actually life forms and we could not ever express our emotions loudly, like love, being happy, sad, angry. It makes me wonder, how would everybody cope? How would everybody be if they couldn't express their emotions? I feel like it would be pent up and it would just be crazy. I feel like the world is crazy now, but I feel like if it was like this, it would be even crazier. But overall, I really enjoyed this graphic novel. A 5 out of 5 stars. Make sure you go ahead and get your copy because it is really good and it's really worth the read. But that is it. That is my book review for Human Remains. I really hope you enjoyed my book review. And yeah, hope you pick up your copy. See ya.